I wanted to break down what Gottman says are the 4 most common things that deteriorate a relationship and the 4 anecdotes that you could do different that help rebuild a relationship. So, in my Gottman packet, if you're watching on YouTube, here it is. This is his little sign that I love that I put on my fridge. But basically, he says the 4 horsemen, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Like when you see these things happening, these are the most common things that break down relationships. So the first one is, criticism, right? We all know what it's like to be criticized for doing the dishes wrong or folding the bed wrong or, not waking up the right way. Who knows, right? And that can happen a lot in postpartum, feeling critiqued for like every little thing. So the antidote for that is to use a gentle startup. So instead of just saying, why do all your dishes always still have food on them after you put them in the dishwasher or something like that? And so you can use the gentle startup, right? And we all know what that means. Hey, sweetie, I just wanted to show you something that I noticed. I know it's probably just a me thing, but you see these plates? Every time I take them out of the dishwasher, they're still got tons of food on them. And then I feel like I just got to wash them again or whatever. It's just like, you have to literally, he says, keep a little pen and paper or probably your cell phone and just write down what's irking you and don't say it right in the moment. Like, wait a minute, and then have these gentle startups. And people who start conversations with a gentle startup are more likely to end the conversation with a gentle resolution. People who start with a harsh criticism are more likely to end the conversation with harsh, like, well, I didn't have enough time because I'm feeding the baby. So like, screw it, wash the dishes yourself, like that kind of ending, which isn't really helping anyone. The second one is really obvious. This usually happens after criticism, and that's defensiveness. And that I just touched on, right? Which is like, geez, I was just putting on the wheels on the bus, or like, I'm just trying to help you, or, it's like, instead of listening, we defend ourselves because especially criticism feels like an attack. So for a lot of us, we just want to be like, whoa, I've been waking up at 2 a.m. I've been breastfeeding. I've been doing whatever. You're not listening to try to have the goal to be resolution. You're just protecting yourself. Super common, but it's unproductive. And the antidote to that is that you have to take responsibility, which so many people do not want to do, right? But usually when you have a gentle startup, you can be like, oh, I see. Yeah, there are some food on the dishes. Oh, you're right. When I do put the dishes in, I tend to not scrub them really well or whatever. And again, it's not a big thing. Nobody's attacking your whole ego. You're just talking about the dishes. But in marriage, I feel like dishes and trash and duties become so much bigger than the actual thing itself. It becomes like who you are as a person. Like somebody is attacking like your worth, your value. Like, so these things get super heisty and we go right into these horsemen of criticism and defensiveness. And then if we do that long enough, then what he says is truly like the worst part is contempt. People kind of use that word a lot with people who, are homeless, like, get a job, like you just look down on them. You have like disgust, and it really doesn't even matter what they say or do. You believe that they're less than you.
Right.
And he says, once you believe your partner is kind of less than you, they're not capable of doing the dishes well, or they're just somehow less. This is like a really deep dark hole to get out of, because all these other things like respect and listening and trying to be on the same team are out the window. He says out of the 4 horsemen, this is the biggest predictor of people getting divorced or living in unhappy marriages. So the opposite of content is that you really need to describe your own feelings and needs. You don't describe your partner's feelings and needs, you describe yours. And he gives you all these ways to do that. And it's really hard because it's easy to like, again, want to just defend yourself. But that's the opposite of contempt. And then here's the last one, guys. I'm sure you've experienced this, but it's stonewalling, right? And that's when you're too tired. You've already fought about it. You've had the same fight a million times. Maybe you're at that place of contempt. You don't even want to touch it. And they just shut off. They're physically there, but they're not engaging in any way, in nonverbals and verbals. And this is really common for men to do just because it's tied to a bunch of things like stoicism or whatever. But this is also the end of the end. Like once people are just no longer, they're just sitting in a room, but no longer looking at each other. This can be kind of, again, where can you go from there? That's just backed against a wall. So for this, and this, he has a whole section for men. It's called psychological soothing. So he says that like you can have your cortisol levels just like, and once they're this high, they're above your head, you're not going to be able to do gentle startups, take responsibility. Like if your body is not regulated, you need to learn how to regulate and calm it down, which is super simple, and taking breaths and take a walk.
Yeah.